اوكي. هو ايه اللي حصل؟ اوكي. خلاص نبتدي. كله سامعني ولا؟ اوكي. ماشي. معلش على الوقت الطويل اللي اخدته، بس so today هنتكلم عن psychology principles in UX design. كانت ندى قبل كده كلمتنا عن a lot of different principles، بس since ان هو يعني في كمية effects and principles and theories that could relate to UX design, I thought this session could talk about even more theories that we can discuss and how they can help us for UX. Um, Okay. Psychology is a very important part of designing the user experience of any given product, where it helps us understand how and why people behave, how their decisions can be influenced. Today we'll look at some psychology principles زي ما قلت to help us understand برضو how they relate to UX design, and how they help us make decisions that can improve our users' interaction with our products. We elicit specific responses and actions من ال target users بتوعنا. So the first theory that I'd like to talk about is the Zeigernick Effect. Essentially, the Zeigernick Effect suggests that any unfinished or uninterrupted tasks are more easily recalled and completed are more easily recalled than completed tasks. The study came from a Russian psychiatrist, a Russian psychologist actually, called Bluma Zeigernick. And it started by إنها كانت in a restaurant في يوم, and she noticed the waiter and how he could remember the details of orders for tables that يعني had not left لسه و had not even paid لسه. بس he could not remember the details for orders that were already completed و paid for ومشي وخلاص. This inspired her to design some experiments to study the reason behind this behavior, and she came up with this effect after she learned that during a task, any specific task, بيكون في task specific cognitive tension created. During this tension, we're more likely easily able to access the details بتاعت التاسك دي than إن لما التاسك is completed. When once إن هو التاسك is completed, the tension usually disappears along with the enhanced cognitive access that we have للdetails دي. This gives us some insight into the way our memory works, as يعني إن هو most of the time إحنا we rely on short-term memory to complete tasks at hand. The learning centered around this task often doesn't make it to our long-term memory. we يعني دايما أي task صغيرة we don't focus on for فترة طويلة, it just doesn't make it to our long-term memory. Therefore, in UX design, having visuals that represent the incompleteness of a certain task is always critical to help us يعني to help us check task specific tension بتاع each task دي, and it encourages the user to recall the task. progress bars, circles, check marks زي هنا is يعني they're all ways to indicate when a task is incomplete, where it creates this tension إن هو لغاية لما it is completely full. We also برضو know how يعني الحاجات دي is very satisfying to complete a task, وإن هو دايما بن get some joy once إن هو ال progress bar ده is completely full أو ال certain check marks are checked. يعني why deny your users برضو that joy. في الآخر يعني no, this is how I would relate this to designs in our products. Um, the second effect that I'd like to talk about is the chameleon effect. Uh, you guys برضو feel free ان انتوا تقاطعوني او تسألوني اي حاجة او كده. Um, uh, next is the chameleon effect. The chameleon effect is a very well-known cognitive psychology theory, which indicates that all people tend to mimic emotions and feelings of others. Behavior that is usually يعني, unconscious, but we can consciously use it for UX design to create content that provokes certain emotions في الusers بتوعنا. A popular example of this is the the Dio bird بتاع Duolingo, which tends ان هو يعني لما بنسيم مثلا for example here ان هو it tends to make the users feel bad for skipping lessons, and it encourages them to return learning using الاب دي. فكل مرة بكون عايزة ارجع تاني اكمل ال lessons بتاعتي والtasks بتوعي عشان because I unconsciously feel bad because of البird ده, which was the obvious intention behind الصورة دي to make the users kind of mimic the bird's feelings. برضو this effect was kind of it's used a lot for content writing, as writers usually use it to provoke certain feelings in readers. The third effect is برضو very similar to the chameleon effect, which is the mirroring effect. Mirroring theory برضو states that unconscious mirroring of the behavior of people, ان احنا دايما ان هو we mimic the behavior of people that we're with او we're in proximity with of unconsciously. An example of this within design is the use of حاجات زي مثلا in high demand book 20 times 22 times في booking, أو إن هو إن إحنا try to make people برضو more interested in a certain product by letting them know إن other people are currently looking at this exact listing. يعني this makes the user feel like he has to check this out, since other people are looking at this, then they have to be interested as well. The next effect is the von Restruoff effect. This theory was named after a German psychiatrist who did an experiment where found out that when people participate when people when people are presented with a list of items and one of the items are more distinctive than the rest, the memory of this item was improved. It's also known as the isolation effect. A good example of this is notifications on our phones, and هو دايما يعني when we keep checking our phones all the time ان هو بيكون دايما السكرين زي ما هي مفيش أي change. So once there's even a slightest change اللي هو زي a badge, a beep, a notification that pops up, we end up يعني noticing it even more. حاجة برضو another example that might be more clear is payment packages, where when the users are presented with a list of different payment packages, they usually focus and notice more the one that's recommended or the one that's highlighted in a different way. The next theory is the aesthetic usability effect. This principle suggests that users tend to perceive attractive products as more usable. People tend to believe in things that look better will work better, even if they actually aren't more effective or efficient. Okay. positive feelings يعني are created in response to the visual design that will make the يعني that visual design attractive, which makes us more tolerant of minor usability issues. فوين الاesthetic design ده اللي هو الحاجة that's very يعني attractive and visually appealing fails us, users and however يعني users end up blaming themselves instead of the broken functionalities في ال product ده. An example of this is all the designs we see on websites like Dribble or Behance that we think look very clean and very pleasing, and we're very impressed by them, even though they might be just concepts that are unusable or technically حتى unfeasible. These يعني positive emotions reinforce our interactions with any products, where they overcompensate any usability problems or drawbacks, which makes us more tolerant of a product. The next theory is the placebo effect. This revolves around إن هو when a patient is given a substance that has absolutely no real actual therapeutic value, the patients may feel that they're receiving clinical benefit, or might even believe that they're getting better, even though they're not. Of course, in هو يعني this way of treating people is regarded as dishonest and misleading, but despite all the controversies, the psychological effect is very much real. An example that we might deal with that يعني highlights this effect is the elevator doors. احنا we deal with this every day ان احنا بندخل elevator once ان هو خلاص احنا عايزين نطلع بندوس على الزرار بتاع اللي هو ال closed doors and we feel like ان هو كده we did something, بس هو in fact ال button ده is just another example of the placebo effect ان هو it doesn't really make the elevator door close any faster than it يعني it ever will. هو it just makes us feel better about waiting for it to close on its own. The users مثلا في another يعني if we're talking about a product, a digital product, احنا an example of this might be the pull to refresh animations. فإن هو برضو the users expect إن هو the page will refresh faster once إن هما they pull, بس الحقيقة is إن هو it will never refresh any faster than it should. It's just an animation that makes me feel better about waiting again. فإن هو the users again perceive action ده as something إن هما they did and they made the reload happen, but يعني which is not the case. The animation just distracts the users away from the technical limitation of processing the data بتاع ال back end. Okay, so another thing I'd like to talk about is the psychology of persuasion, which has it's derived from a famous book called Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. And it has a list of principles that tend to dictate the way we behave in society. With this, we can use to يعني, identify human behavior, especially with our products. So the first principle for the psychology of persuasion is reciprocity. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. The principle states in people that they don't like being indebted to others. If they're given something, they usually feel obligated to reciprocate on some level. Offering مثلا free books أو blog posts أو podcasts أو any other free content, وبعدين asking for users email address usually يعني in return is a good example of this in real life. عشان if we يعني if we just offer free stuff, people don't usually like feeling indebted, and they don't usually feel trust towards something that doesn't ask them anything in return. Um, Another theory is about authority, when هو how people realize إن هما they can't be experts at everything. ف that's why they tend to rely on more on testimonies of experts and other people that they may trust, um, which يعني هم they generally tend to trust the experts and authority figures دي, or to regard them يعني as trustworthy and take their word for it. ف using this within our designs would be إن هو برضو having certain testimonies from whether successful companies or trustworthy people would be a good example of this. And it ends up يعني establishing a certain level of trust and respect and credibility for the company. The next theory is social proofing. برضو it's a little similar to the mirroring effect. إن هو the principle برضو suggests in people tend to rely on what others are doing. In e-commerce, we usually use social proof such as ratings, reviews, recommendations to attract other users. There are many examples of websites that do this. For example, Amazon, they have a section of customers who bought this and already also liked, ويكون في items تانية related, وان هو حتى لو ال items are not relatable to ال certain item دي برضو users end up thinking ان هو if they need it then I might need it too, but they have a look at that item. Um, the last principle today that I'd like to talk about is scarcity, which it's pretty simple. إن هو it says إن هو if something is limited, people want it more. But the fewer an addition there is, the more people will want to get it and will be more intrigued by it. That's why يعني some shops have limited edition items and it attracts even more customers. These are the principles that I decided to talk about today. احنا لو عندكم أي أسئلة أو we'd like to discuss any of it, feel free to let me know. I can go back to the slide. Otherwise, here are some references that I used for this research. There's still many more theories out there that we could relate and use in our in UX.
Thank you so much, Mariam.
Thank you.
الحتة اللي انت كنت بتتكلمي فيها عن ال positive feelings افتكرت الإعلانات بتاعت رمضان بتاعت مستشفيات يعني 57 357 versus بتاعت أهل مصر.
Yeah. اوكي. اللي هي قصدك على هنا على the chameleon effect ان هو mimicking the feelings بتاعت other people يعني.
Yes.
Yes, nice. هو فعلا في advertisement عندك حق دايما they use this.
بس هم عكس بعض يعني مثلا 57 357 بتستخدم ال positive feeling. كانت زمان تجيب cases بتبقى صعبة شوية وبعدين بدأت تنتبه إن هي عايزة تستخدم positive feelings أكتر، إن هي بقت بتجيب الأطفال وهم بيغنوا بيعملوا حاجات ظريفة. فبتبقي مبسوطة وانتي بتتفرجي على الإعلان versus حد تاني مثلا بيبقى بيجيب cases بتبقى صعبة قوي وأصلا انتي بتبكي عليها بتبقى مؤلمة جدا ليكي نفسيا، فأول ما بتشوفي الإعلان بتقومي قلبة.
Yes. احنا يعني انا مش عارفة بالظبط انا my theory is لو ان هما they use this ان هما برضو ممكن تكون the same thing ان هما they're trying to mimic the feeling ده. ف once ان انا I see happy people singing and everything ان هو يبقى انا برضو I end up feeling better about donating or I feel good about this action that I يعني that they're ان هما they're showing او كده. انتوا رأيكم ايه؟
وفي الحتة بتاعة السكارسيتي دي برضو هي مش بتبقى يعني برضو بيبقى ساعات لما بيكتبلك مثلا only two left in stock لازم يكون limited edition
مهم.
يعني مثلا only two left in stock أو حاجة زي كده فدي برضو بتحسسك لا لازم ألحق قبل ما أي حد تاني يشتري.
Yeah. Yes.
الحتة بتاعت البلاسيبو إفكت بتاعت الإليفيشن دي حكتني جدا. عشان it's so true والله عشان اللي هو أنا بدوس على الزرار أنا عارف إن الزرار doesn't close it any faster. It does it like a second مثلا ولا حاجة كده بس لازم أدوس عليه.
Yes.
اللي بيقفل الاليفيتر بيتهيألي يعني بيقفله بجد. يعني بحس ان انا لما بدوس على الزرار بيتقفل في ساعتها.
مهم.
أيوه بس يعني it's like a second apart.
بس هو
يعني ممكن فعلا تتقفل بس it's like literally a second apart.
بس هو
Yes.
actually يعني هي يعني نوها انا كنت فاكره دايما كده فعلا بس studies have shown ان هو لا يعني it actually doesn't do anything. هو فعلا it's there بس هو it doesn't close it any faster.
ايه ايه ده كل ده بيضحك عليا يعني.
okay.
لا يبقى أحسن بقى لما أنت تضحكي على نفسك يعني أنا عارفة إن هو it doesn't close it any faster بس I still like to press the button because it makes me feel better مش أكتر.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you يا جماعه.
Thank you
وانا
so much.
I'm trying to end okay